And now we have envisaged, unfortunately, very short time of interaction and debate. We would like to have a longer time in order to give this opportunity to everybody, but unfortunately, we left the space up to the time of our lunch buffet. We have one request on behalf of Mr. Zucucco, who is the president of the Association on Specific Rights. I would like to put a question to the representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Well, first and foremost, thank you for this opportunity to take the floor, and I will be very brief. I would like to put forward an issue which is also concerning our foreign guests, because it is an international matter. I would like to remind you that the Radical Association Certain Rights, although being an association as the others, its core mission is to build up and rally political initiatives in order to attain political targets vis-à-vis these LGBT people. We have been championing the so-called civil confirmation, the use of pilot cases, which was one of the possible way forward. Unfortunately, in Italy, this is one of the most effective ways. What Giuseppina was saying before about the patch, to put all these patches, but all these patches can be quite beneficial. Specifically, there is a ruling of the court of Reggio Emilia in the north of Italy. I don't know whether Alessandra mentioned that before in her intervention. A ruling of the Reggio Emilia court, which is quite interesting. Although being a patch, an interim solution, granting the document to authorize to be Italian citizens, well, it paved the way to this free movement of people. So not only the recognition of the marital states, but the rights of the spouses, or rights granted by a civil partnership coming from another country. The Italian police headquarters already issued so many permits, and there will be the family checks and so on and so forth. So this is a very special issue in Italy. In reality, a couple, a same-sex couple, either being married or under a civil partnership, not in Italy, can enjoy more rights than the rights of Italian couples being in the same situation, but they are not married. Or maybe couples that are married abroad, but they have no rights recognized in Italy. I've been paying heed to all the interventions, specifically the representative of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I fully share the necessity of this strategy of the small steps, a gradual strategy on the ground of the existing regulations without forcing the situation that might be counterproductive. So we have to rely on the European framework. But with Mr. Di Carlo, we were talking about this recent case relating the Ministry of Foreign Affairs employee. An employee apply for the granting of the diplomatic passport, the diplomat passport. So I don't want to be giving details on what happened, but mention should be made to the fact that this way forward that Alexander has specified, this recognition of the rights of these couples without the recognition of a marriage that can be grounded, it could be a way forward to recognize the rights to this couple without forcing this Italian legislation, because the marriage of same-sex couples is not recognized in Italy. I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was very rigid and close-minded vis-à-vis the Italian law. So they only apply the family law and the connection between the family law and the granting of benefits. By the same token, even the public administration could follow suit. For example, some rights can be extended to the same-sex couples without waiting for the recognition of marriages abroad. Thank you. I thank you for your question, which is actually touching upon a very critical points. And I thank the President of Member Families, Rainbow Families, for her intervention. I can state the following. I think I'm very sympathetic. All these steps and phases, all these difficulties you encountered in the maternity, which is such a fundamental right, or the protection of the psychological well-being and the rights of the minor children. This is something that has to be taken on board, and we are really paying heed to the rulings of all this legal authority that can open the way and lay the foundations in specific sectors, and therefore prepare the ground for this present regulations. But we are also talking about the enforcement of the existing laws. And if they are not outlawed or repealed by the internal regulations, unfortunately, all these regulations must be implemented and enforced. Let's now give an answer to the specific question of our colleague. Is referring to the remarks made by Mrs. Ladelfa. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are really paying heed to these issues. Allow me to use quite an out-fashioned expression. We are considered to be people of the word, citizens of the word. We are really open to whatever is reflecting the reality in the word, the reality of human beings in all its nuances and in all its wealth. Dialogue in all areas And the sharing of ideas and traditions and different cultures is our core business, so to speak, is the driver of our activity. Otherwise, we wouldn't work in this field. We wouldn't be submitted to continuous transfers abroad. We wouldn't experience all these difficulties. The fact of living 4 years in one country, 4 years in another country, and so on and so forth. So, your case, namely the colleague applying for a passport for his partner, this is something we are following with huge attention. Our stance is very favorable and positive. We would like to recognize this situation, and we believe that a state official, in order to perform its activity in the best conditions, is entitled to his own private life, to his friends. We cannot think of someone enduring a difficult situation like this. Nevertheless, we are clashing with the present regulations as for the granting of the passport. All these measures are not only concerning the same-sex couples, but is also referring to the heterogeneous couple. The diplomatic passport is only issued to the spouse of the officer who is transferred abroad. So we're talking about the spouse, and this is the barrier hindering a different implementation. With regard to these limitations, there is a myriad of other situations which are more complicated from my viewpoint. So the diplomatic passport is at the tip of the iceberg, if you like, because the diplomatic passport, theoretically speaking, is for the diplomatic officer, but the spouse, the partner of the person in question should be in the condition to live in that country in all the possible freedom. There are countries in war areas where it's already difficult to perform an activity, and if the spouse or the partner of our officer is not put in the right conditions to live in peace in that state, this is to the detriment of the activity performed. But the passport is not the real problem. But there are a number of issues which are somehow, for example, the family checks, the so-called family checks. We cannot forget that whenever a state officer is transferred abroad, and maybe the spouse or the partner cannot perform work activity in that country, a subsidy and an indemnity is envisaged for the spouse. Children are a different issue, because children, maybe children out of the wedlock, I was talking about the small steps policy, so maybe the regulations is applied literally. So we have the small steps policy in the diplomacy word. I'm not referring to internal issues, which are typical of the Italian administration, but I was rather referring to other situations, serious situations, which is referring to LGBT abroad. There are governments totally against it, not against the granting or not granting of a diplomatic passport, which might be considered like a privilege, but which might cause sufferings to these people. There is ill treatment, harassment, and so on and so forth. But I might state the following. This issue is already high in our agenda. This is not the only case of diplomatic officers, of diplomats. But we need some provisions, some measures that can somehow allow for modifications. For instance, I've been traveling throughout various countries, for instance, in Spain. There is quite an open-minded law. We were talking about Spanish diplomats who were credited in Italy or in other countries of the European Union, other European countries that couldn't register their partners as spouses, fully fledged spouses, or at least on the same footing of the marriage. So somehow some inequalities of treatment are created, which are the basis of all these discriminations, and we should try to solve it. In order to give you an answer, we need someone to explain why the present regulations doesn't allow the state officers abroad to have this diplomatic passport and ensuring all the other benefits envisaged by the heterosexual couples. I hope to have given you an answer to your question.